Hey guys, I just wanted to try to update you about this very complicated story that's breaking now in the media. And it has to do with the fact that I am a target of the Labor Party and a PR firm called APCO. They were caught investigating myself and six other reporters. I released this memo last week that I got leaked to me. And I want to try to explain to you a little bit about what's going on. So you can see that I'm one of the seven people that were being targeted. This memo has been bouncing around London, I would say maybe for months, weeks. I'm not totally sure. I got it, released it. And when it first started getting more public attention, the guy who ran Labor Together time he's now a member of parliament named Josh Simons. He denied that it was about investigating reporters, and he tried to lie about this and say that he had asked APCO to investigate a hack. Well, you can tell that this is not true because at the top of the memo, it says very specifically what they were interested in. And it was a group called the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a nonprofit that was started by Labor Together, Josh Simon's think tank that he was running at the time, and Labor Together and the money involved in all this. And that's really what this is all about. It's really about the sort of dark arts that have been going on inside London, the secret money, and this group called Center for Countering Digital Hate, which is run by Imran Ahmed. And I've been investigating Imran Ahmed and the Center for Countering Digital Hate for several years right now, and that's why I've been caught up in this. I became interested in the Center for Countering Digital Hate around 2022, 2023, and it was part of my sort of more look at the entire disinformation industry. I'd realized a lot of these fact checkers were nonsense. I've written about this several times at the Disinformation Chronicle. I realized that a lot of the academics that are, misinformation experts are just nonsense. And the Center for Countering Digital Hate was very critical at this time. It was being quoted everywhere in the media. New York Times, they were on CNN, MSNBC, of course. They were constantly in the media, and I had no clue who they were. I'd lived for a decade in DC. I know a lot of the leaders of nonprofits. I'm friends with people throughout the city. I'd never heard of them, and I'd never heard of this guy who ran them, Ron Ahmed. I wrote an article about this in 2023 for Tablet, and I sort of traced their entire history. Imran Ahmed is actually not an American. He's a British political operative. He comes out of the Labor Party. The Center for Countering Digital Hate was started up as a project of Labor Together, a think tank based back in London. And what were doing is they were going out and bashing anyone and everyone who they didn't like. And they were putting into power a guy named Keir Starmer, who's now actually the Prime Minister of UK. And after they were successful in bashing their own critics, that's when Center for Countering Digital Hate landed in the United States. They actually caught the attention of the White House, which I thought was so interesting that this unknown nonprofit was being quoted from the White House. President Biden was mentioning them. And it was just so strange to me, like how you could come out of nowhere and suddenly you're famous in DC. That just doesn't happen. And I began digging through their tax records, and it became kind of apparent to me how that was, because on their tax records, the chairman of the Center for Countering Digital Hate is a guy named Simon Clark. Simon Clark had been a fellow at the Center for American Progress. That's a Democratic Party think tank that was set up by John Podesta, who was Bill Clinton's White House chief of staff. And the Center for American Progress actually helped to run Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign against Trump. So you can see on there that Simon Clark is there. Another person who's there is a woman you see, Eileen Kashishian. She's actually an agent in Hollywood. And two of her clients are Mark Ruffalo, the actor, who's online constantly on Twitter campaigning for the Center for Countering Digital Hate. And her other client is a singer, Selena Gomez, who I was told from people inside Center for Countering Digital Hate donated secretly $100,000 to Imran Ahmed. I also uncovered the fact that, as in London, they were constantly trying to hide where their money was coming from. About 75% of their money in the first year that they landed in DC came through a donor-assisted fund called the Charles Schwab Charitable Fund. Sorry about that. What that allows is if you're wealthy, you can give money to the Charles Schwab Charitable Fund, and then they will donate to whoever you want the donation to go to. So then the donation comes from Charles Schwab Charitable Fund and not from you. So it breaks the link between the donor and the recipient. And you can actually see that in the memo. This is what APCO and Labor Together were interested in. They were interested in my reporting for Tablet, in my other reporting that I did at the Disinformation Chronicle, looking further and further into the past and into the hidden ties and the money of the Center for Countering Digital Hate. It wasn't just me that was interested in the Center for Countering Digital Hate. The House was also interested in them, and they deposed Imran Ahmed in 2024. And I want to give you some bits of what they found, or what Imran Ahmed admitted in his deposition. So he admitted under oath that actually he shared offices with Labor Together. And so they shared offices together. He also says in a separate example that he was very close friends with Josh Simons. He says, I've known Josh for many, many years and we're old friends. He also says that he's Morgan McSweeney, who also used to run Labor Together and then went on to put Keir Starmer in the prime minister's office. He's like, we're very, very close friends. So this whole group, Center for Countering Digital Hate and Labor Together, had been tied together forever. Dark money, working from the same offices. I didn't realize it at the time, but it became very clear in this deposition. At the same time that that deposition was happening, I was in contact with a whistleblower inside the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Hours and hours on the phone. This person passed me hundreds and hundreds of pages of emails, internal documents from the Center for Countering Digital Hate. And one of the documents that came out was it showed what their real mission was. And their real mission wasn't to control hate, not to try to deal with child porn, whatever it is they try to say they do. Their mission was to kill Musk's Twitter. And their mission was to trigger EU and UK regulatory action. That's their entire mission from the beginning. So based in part on this document that I released through my reporting in 2024, right before Christmas, the State Department moved to deport Imran Ahmed from the United States. He lives in the United States. I know his address and he won't respond to me at all, but I know where he lives. I have his cell phone number. He doesn't pick up the phone. He lives about 2 miles from the White House in northern DC. The State Department cited my reporting specifically in their tweet and in their court documents that this kill Musk Twitter and the trigger EU and regulatory action is why they're actually deporting him. Even though Imran Ahmed has been exposed as a political operative, he's not there to try to control hate. He's a political operative. He's born out of the Labor Party. His entire gimmick has been to push Labor Party operations. He's still seen as critical in legacy media. He just partnered last month with the New York Times. They work directly with him. It's right there in the New York Times. They're working right there directly with him. He's still interviewed by NPR. He chortles about it on Blue Sky. So he's still seen as credible in certain areas, even though in the UK now he's known as Muck. Everything is falling apart right now in the UK. Morgan McSweeney had to step down as chief of staff to Keir Starmer. Josh Simons is now under investigation for having launched this investigation against myself and other reporters. And I just want to let you know one more thing. Imran Ahmed is now fighting his deportation proceedings. He's hired a small army of lawyers. You can see it in the court documents. And one of the things that his lawyers are concerned about is the reporting here at the Disinformation Chronicle. So if they're concerned and worried about the reporting here, this is where you know that you want to come to find the best reporting. So please subscribe. Please keep coming back here and reading everything. And I'm going to try to keep you informed and up to date as much as possible. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all your support.